And I have had so many incredible stories of people who you wouldn't even think that they have all that behind in their lives, that I started. I'm doing it. I'm compiling their photos and I write a story about what they told me. And you would be impressed with the things I've heard from them. You can write a book.
Hi, this is Polly Neely, and I am with Dr. Nelson Preschel this evening, and we are doing an interview for our Focus Through the Generations series. We are interviewing 4 generations of actively practicing ophthalmologists to get their viewpoints, their life stories, and what they think the future holds. So, Dr. Preschel, I said Dr. Nelson, Dr. Preschel, thank you for
You
joining us.
can you can call me. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm happy and honored to have this chance. For you allowing me to be here today and tell you about what I think and who I
Well,
am.
we're waiting to hear it. I want to ask you just to introduce yourself to us. And
So my name is Nelson Preschel. I'm an ophthalmologist. I practice in Southeast Florida, specifically in Broward County. That's north of Miami-Dade County. I've been here for the last 18 years now. I was born and raised in Venezuela, where I went to medical school. And then after I finished school, I came to New York and I did my internship and I did a fellowship in ophthalmic pathology. I did my residency at New York Pioneer, and then I did a combined fellowship in cornea refractive and also in glaucoma with Minnesota Eye Consultants up in Minneapolis. And after I finished my training, my formal training, I returned to Venezuela, where I spent 5 years in private practice and academics. And as many of you know, the country is not doing well. That's quite an understatement. But when we realized that, my wife and I, who also trained in the US, she's a dentist, we decided to return to the US. And we've been here in Florida for the last 18 years now. Yeah. I practice general ophthalmology with emphasis in cornea refractive and a lot of glaucoma. I do a lot of glaucoma work these days. And that's pretty much who I am.
well, I had the pleasure of meeting you many years ago. I think I don't even remember how long ago now. But
Long enough for me to call you mom.
yes, he calls me mom. Not because I'm old enough to be his mom. We need to set that straight. Just because I'm nice.
That's right. I'm the third. I'm the second one on those four generations.
Yeah, I just made him aware that he's in the second category, and he wasn't happy to know
Oh
he was
no.
in the second category. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question for you, which is really an interesting question I want to start out with. Um, if you could have lunch with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
Pablo Picasso.
Picasso.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Or Sandy Calder. Why? Because what I really want to be in life is an artist, and that's what I really wanted to be. And I think I'm training to be an artist. And I think the hardest part of trying to be an artist is developing a language. Because art is, for me, letting go of things. And it's very hard to make that connection between what you want to let go and what you build. So it's not something that you can learn in art schools because they show you technique, basically. But to learn a language, that's very difficult. And he's one of my idols in art. I mean, I have many other people that I would like to have lunch with. I don't have one. Most of them would be artists, to be honest. But he probably will be one of my favorites. I actually have a photo of him in front of my computer at work, in which he's laying on the beach on the sand with with a cigarette on his hand, and you can see that the guy is just savoring life. And that's what I like from him the most. The intensity of his life and how he squeezed life out of life. And yeah, that probably would be the number one guy.
I like that. I've seen
Yeah.
a photo ago in your office, actually.
Yeah.
I hate to say I didn't know who it was, but yes, thank you for clearing that.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay. Um, Tell me about your most memorable patient.
It's like if you ask me what's my favorite food, I don't have a single most memorable patient. I have many memorable patients.
Ah, most
One thing that I do invariably every time I have a new patient is I ask them, well, of course I ask them how did they find me, but I always ask them what do they do? And most of them are retired because as an ophthalmologist, I see, most of them are elderly people. And if they're retired, I ask them, what did you do during your working, you know, years? And I've had so many incredible stories of people who you wouldn't even think that they have all that behind in their lives, that I started. I'm doing it. I'm compiling their photos and I write a story about what they told me. And you would be impressed with the things I've heard from them. You can write a book. I started putting all that on an Instagram page, I guess you call it. But it's a lot of time. One day I'll sit down and write them all that, all up. But I can't tell you of a single one because I have so many impressive people that I met through ophthalmology or through medical practice in general that I cannot tell you this is the one memorable one. I have so many, so many, so many. I have movie producers. I have, war heroes, people who landed in the heel of Italy and walked their way out during World War II as Rangers and survived. I mean, I have so many things. I have a patient who his role was, he worked in the Park Lane Hotel in New York, and his role was to take care of the celebrities that came to the hotel and make them pass, without being noticed. It's amazing the things that you hear from these people that you would never know. Uh, you know, so I don't have a single one. I have so many, at least based on their life experience and the impact that has in me. If you ask me about my most memorable surgical case, I also have several, but I can't tell you which one. I just have so many, but that's how they become memorable to me.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's the best
Yeah.
answer I've had yet. I like that. I like that.
Correct.
What would you say to the millennials that are coming out of school now that it's a horrible time, number one, for them to come out of school right now because we all know reimbursements are low and COVID and whatever. But what would you say to them if they wanted to hang out their own shingle? What's the best piece of advice you could give to them?
Well, you need a coach. You need someone to coach you. You're probably not going to find a coach in the same market where you are working because it's cutthroat and nobody wants to coach you. So you have to find someone that you admire, that you like. Perhaps an attending in your residency years, you met someone who's in private practice who you admire and who's doing well. Maybe after you finish your fellowship, if you do it in a private environment. Um, but you have to pick a coach that can help well, and that person has to be willing to help you and to answer questions and to guide you through the first years, and it has to be someone that's always available that you can call. You are one of my coaches, Paulie. um, that would be the first thing. You need a coach, like in any business. It's not only in ophthalmology. Any business that you want to, you have to have a coach, someone who knows about it, who has years ahead of you in the same area and knows how do you say tell me the word, the way you have to do things to be successful. Then you have to read the right books and the right articles. Up until I started my own practice, I was reading ophthalmology. But if you're going to start private practice, you're going to stop reading ophthalmology. You're going to start reading about the business of ophthalmology, and then you have to be careful what to read. I'm not promoting anyone's business here, but I personally know John Pinto. I've known him for many years. John helped me when I transitioned from Venezuela to the private practice group where I worked at the beginning here. Um, Probably many people that are listening or seeing this presentation know who John is. He's the editor for the practice management section at Oakland Surgery News, and he publishes a book. He publishes many books, but there's one book that should be like a Bible to anyone that's going into private practice. It's called A Little Green Book of Ophthalmology, and John has compiled, I mean, pretty much everything you could think about how to run a private practice. That should be something that you have to read from cover to cover, and there are many other things, but I think that would be a good way to start. You have to have a good accountant. You have to have a good lawyer.
Yes.
You have to have a good lawyer. You have to. And it may be a little difficult to find. You don't want a huge firm. You want someone who's a little below that, who's accessible. And as CPA, you know, you're gonna have to do your research, but those are two key players in your team that you need to have. So coach, lawyer, CPA, read the right books, and that's good to start. That's a mini startup kit there. You should visit people you admire and see how they work. That's something that I have done. You know, before I returned to the U.S., when I returned to the U.S., because I spent 5 years down in Venezuela, I went and spent another week with my mentors up in Minnesota, just to see how things were being done. Because 5 years in ophthalmology is a lot of time. It's a lot, and things change so rapidly in our field. So I did that. So invest on preparing yourself for the battle, because that's what it is, in my opinion. Yeah,
that's very true. What do you think is the biggest either problem or opportunity facing our industry today?
Well, I don't know. I gotta think about that one, Polly. Problem or opportunity? I'll tell you what my problems with ophthalmology are right now. I spend too much time dealing with compliance, with paperwork, with crap, honestly, not being a doctor. Another problem that I feel I have is insurance companies dictating how I practice ophthalmology. It's been years since I was allowed to prescribe brand medication to my patients. In the recent months, I had to do a procedure that it was my second choice to do, because the insurance company did not cover amniotic membrane ocular surface reconstruction, and my patients didn't do as well as I wanted. I hate that someone else is dictating how I practice ophthalmology. As for opportunities, well, you tell me and I'll pursue that. I'm sure there are some. I'll tell you what things I'm doing. To me, a big challenge here in Florida is finding good human resources. It's been very hard, and you know that for a fact because you've been in my practice. Very hard to find good technicians, and it's very hard to find good employees in general. It's like an endemic problem here. It's just, people just don't care. They want a 9 to 5, they want their paycheck, and that's it, and there's no passion. And accountability is a problem, reliability. And so, with the new things that are coming out, with all the advances in information technology and artificial intelligence, for example, and you have helped me with this. I'm going to start, because COVID really made a difference. I have decided not to rely so much on employees and to replace some of my employees with more reliable systems. So, I don't like my answering service and how they were scheduling appointments for me. Now we're going to replace that with a new digital check-in service that will allow patients to check into the practice in the same way you check in to in an airport. It's a very simplified way. So, that will hopefully, if it can be properly implemented, because of course there is a gap there. The old people are not very familiar with computers. We're going to have to train it, but we're going to try to make it work. That's going to, probably lower my cost and increase the reliability of the systems we have to book appointments and have patients check in. My office manager is acquiring more and more responsibilities. She happens to be, this is a small office, so she happens to be my head technician as well. Carrie, she's a do-it-all. So I'm hiring a secretary, an assistant for her who's going to be abroad. I have a friend who, this is what he does. He finds employees abroad, bilingual, people who are highly educated and are willing to do the work for a lower wage, which for us is a lower wage, for them is a good payment,
Right.
Because of their economies being different than ours. And slowly but surely, I'm trying to minimize the amount of local human resources that I have to hire here, that I have to depend on here, because it's just a problem. So that's an opportunity there.
Yeah, I think human resources has been a big issue for a lot of practices. I think just the whole, and I worked in Florida for 7 years, that, and it is an issue more so, I find, there. And I've talked to other, ophthalmologists there who say the same thing. And I think that it takes you so long to train an employee to get them where they need to be, and then they're gone. And it's a transitional state.
Well, think about this. Let's say I have 4 or 5 employees. If one employee doesn't come to work, that's 25% of my of my employees, of my,
Yeah.
it decompensates our day or our week or whatever, and it's just extremely painful. Every time someone leaves, we have to train them again. So it's like not having someone for, the term that it takes to train them and be, efficient and quick. It's extremely painful, and it's very uncomfortable to depend on people who just don't care, unfortunately.
And in your office, they have to be bilingual as well, which is another.
Well, you see, people come to see me in many. I ask them, what made you come see me? And in many occasions, I would say more than 50% of people who found me on the internet decided to come see me because I'm bilingual.
Mhm.
Because, the geographic area where I'm located, and the fact that I'm Venezuelan, that's what, they don't care about my diplomas and all that training that I have. It's just that I have not only that I speak Spanish, but I happen to be South American. So it's more than just language, it's a cultural competence.
Mhm.
So I have to have, all my employees have to be bilingual, because patients come expecting that. And actually I enjoy that. If you ask me, why did you come to Miami? That's probably reason number 2 was the language part. I really savor much more the encounters with my Spanish-speaking patients when we speak the language that I was raised with. You can tell that my English is not perfect, right?
I was telling our crew here that the first time I went to your office, and I followed you because that's what I do when I go in practices, and I shadow people and physicians. And I said, I told you I'm of no value here because I don't understand anything you're saying to the patient or anything the patient is saying to you. I have to read sign language here to figure out if you're doing a good job. I have no idea.
Well, you should spend more time in Florida. You get to learn.
It's true. I am. I'm going to come down and stay at your house when COVID.
Real Florida, not Central Florida. You have to come down here to Miami, and you'll learn.
The real Florida. Well, I have one more question for you. Number one, I just want
That's it. We're done.
No, not yet. What is your hobby right now outside of ophthalmology?
My one hobby?
Yeah.
Yes. You know the answer to that. I have so many. I don't even know. I have too many. My main thing right now is I'm training to be a sculptor, to build artistic. I woodwork. I'm a woodworker. I am thinking about learning metalwork. As I told you, we are in the process of building a small organic farm here. I have been practicing photography since I was in my early teens, since I was 11, I think. I actually work as a professional photographer, so I have so many hobbies. I spearfish, I free dive. I just don't have enough time in life to do all the things that I want to do, but I have many, many hobbies. I mean, the main focus right now is, as I told you, to develop an artistic language to let it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end with this question because we have one question we've asked everybody who has participated with us, and that is, how have you seen technology in ophthalmology transition since your career started? And
Wow.
how do you foresee the technology in the next 15 years being a part of that industry?
Well, when I was training, I mean, I've seen many things. Drug delivery has changed significantly. When I trained, we were still using pilocarpine 4 times a day. Now we have medications that you can put in the eye and have a slow release. And, uh, you know, that's one thing that I've seen. I've seen the transition from blasting someone's macula because they had choroidal vascularization to injections that now control that without destroying the tissue. And I foresee that getting so much better that people won't have to go through the torture of having injections every 3 months or I'm not a retina specialist, but I'm familiar with that. So that's for sure is going to change and will take the accountability, well, the compliance factor of the medical treatment. It will definitely improve medical treatment. Patients won't have to remember to use a medication, won't have to fear an injection. Surgically, I started making incisions that where, like, I remember I was doing phaco and making 3 millimeters, 3.5 millimeters incision, and then I had to enlarge incision 6 millimeters to put a PMMA IOL. Then foldable lenses came in. And now we have a femtosecond laser to make a perfect rexis that I trained for years on how to make, to reproduce it and without problem. It's the most critical part of the procedure. Now you have a laser that will do a 5.5 round, perfectly round incision. And I think that that's going to improve to a point where it's really going to be something that totally replaces what we do with our hands. So I'm seeing that, the most critical parts of many surgical procedures are being replaced by systems like this that are computer guided by real imaging. I was reading about OCT guided retinal surgery today. During my residency training, we were still doing RK. When I finished my residency training, we were doing LASIK. I mean, I was probably the first generation of cornea fellows that started doing LASIK. And a few days ago, I was reading about lasers to change the refractive index of the cornea. I mean, I was reading about changing the refractive index of the intraocular lens and improving residual refractive errors, even turning monofocal lenses into multifocal lenses with a laser. Now we're going to be able to do that in the cornea without having to, cut a flap or remove tissue or anything like that. So it's very impressive. In summary, I think that things are going to be way, way, way less invasive and less dependent on hand skill, which is probably what makes the difference between good ophthalmologists or good surgeons, I should say, and average surgeons, hand skills. And that's, I guess one day everyone's going to be a great surgeon.
Well, we'll end with that, and I'll hope that's what happens.